Hello everyone. So today we are going to read a very interesting story. My name is Book. It's an autobiography. And this is non-fiction, like you've never read it before. The story of books, told by none other than Book itself. And what an extraordinary story it is. From clay tablets to e-readers by way of scrolls and spines, talking leaves and librarians. This book is written by John Agard and it's illustrated by Neil Packer. My name is Book and I will tell you the story of my life. In good time, you will be hearing about clay tablets, the invention of alphabets, parchment, manuscripts that light up the libraries, and all that kind of stuff. But my story goes even further back. Before book, there was breath. By firelight, people sang songs and told stories. They chanted while dancing to honor the seasons, and the old ones passed on the old ways to the young by word of mouth, by the power of memory. Yes, people kept me in their heads and told me with their lips. Writing was not yet born. Well, there's a famous Serbian saying, if you don't know the trees, you may be lost in the forest. But if you don't know the stories, you may be lost in the life. The whodunit of writing. Many people believe that writing began more than 5,000 years ago with the Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia, now modern Iraq. It might have been invented by a Sumerian farmer who just happened to be doodling with clay on the bank of river Tigris or Euphrates. Well, not exactly doodling, but putting marks on clay to keep check of his kettle and barley, the crop. Or a Sumerian woman might have been decorating her clay pots, and one thing led to another. Who knows? It's also possible that writing began few hundred years before, then with the ancient Egyptians, or maybe even earlier with Harappan civilization of the Indus Valley in what is now Pakistan. Archaeologists have dug up thousands of clay tablets with writing on from all of those ancient places. So whether it is first appeared on Harappan seals, Egyptian tombs or Sumerian pottery may always remain a mystery. But without writing, where would book be? Saying it with clay. I like to think of clay tablets as my ancestors. Yes, I will have you know that fired earth is part of book's family tree. For clay tablets weren't just used to keep business records, lists or accounts. On clay tablets, the Sumerians also stored secrets about the stars, as well as prayers, hymns, and even poetry. And what's said to be the oldest story ever written down. And what did they use for pen? A reed. This ancient way of writing is called cuneiform. Cuneiform. Cuneiform, which means wedge-shaped, because they used a reed stylus with wedge-shaped tip to press into the soft clay. Sounds like hard work. You try writing on squishy lumps of clay, then you've got to sun dry the clay or bake it in fire. And if it cracks, well, there goes your paper. But of course, the Sumerians weren't sure of clay, for they lived on banks of two great rivers. Here on this shelf, centuries later, I often wonder what it would feel like to be a clay tablet stored in jars with a poem or story inscribed on me, and then to be dug up thousands of years later by an archaeologist searching among ruins in some faraway desert. Yes, I enjoy a bit of daydreaming. Don't we all? Then I look around at my friends. Paperbacks, hardbacks, all of us huddled together here on the shelves, and I say to myself, what's got into you, book? Your paper pages would go all brown and crunchy in the heat of desert. Your life is a piece of clay. Don't let anyone mold it for you. It's again a very famous Chinese saying by a Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu. Getting your frogs crossed. Before writing, how did people manage to send message to each other across distances? Well, you could use a talking drum or even send an object or two. This might sound like a good idea, but it could be risky. In fact, I will tell you about a moment in history when people got their frogs crossed. The story goes that when King Darius of Persia invaded Scythia, a messenger brought him a package from Scythians. In the package was a frog, a mouse, a bird, and 3 arrows. Darius took this to mean that Scythians were ready to surrender their land and retreat like birds before the Persian arrows. But he had got the wrong end of the stick. Or should that be wrong end of the frog? What the Scythians were really saying to Darius was, look mate, we Scythians aren't about to give up our land. So unless you Persians can hide like a frog in a swamp, burrow like a mouse, or fly like a bird, you would better not think about invading us. Our Scythians' arrows will get you. That's what. Imagine going to all the trouble of catching a frog, a mouse, a bird, and still not getting your message across to the Persians. Surely, this had to be a better way of communicating. Well, for starters, you could send a picture of a frog. At least, then you wouldn't have to go hunting for a real one. And once people began sending pictures, they realized They could use them to represent all sorts of things, not only objects or goods like barley or kettle, but even ideas. If your message meant war, you could carve an arrow or a spear on a clay tablet and send that to your enemies. If your message was wishing someone a long life, you could carve a snake, since there was an old belief that snakes lived forever because they are always changing their old skin for a new one. A picture of a foot might stand for, excuse the pun, the idea of a journey, much like a roadside picture of an adult and child is part of a modern traffic language, meaning watch out for children crossing. Whether carved on clay, bark, ivory, or bone, the arrival of picture writing or pictographs was a big step towards the miracle of alphabet. And yours truly, book. I hope you all enjoyed. We'll continue with the next chapter tomorrow. Till then, stay safe and blessed. Take care all.